Can you please say something about eating? Is there a connection from eating to increasing of the body? We do think, why do we think we need to control our eating? What and how much we were eating? Why is the body increasing? Because of eating too much or unhealthy? Or just because we believe there is a connection? Can we do anything to not put on or lose weight? Thank you. Thanks for your question. Man, I'm becoming the eating expert. I remember a few weeks ago there was a lady with an eating disorder asking questions. I believe that everything is a state of mind. So it's all what these body-mind mechanisms believe. But, and this is the crazy making part, is that we don't control these body-mind mechanisms. So it's down to God as to what they believe and what they think and what their habits are. It's even down to God as to whether you get into this subject. So in one way, everything is what you believe. So if you believe you can put on weight, then you can put on weight. If you don't believe you can, you don't. And it's not just a mental thing, it's like a whole bodily, visceral experience. I think this, like even with the coronavirus, like we've collectively created this as beings. It's not a personal thing, it's not you or me or any person individually, but as a whole, as a collective. It's appeared from our subconscious. And yet it's one being that's controlling all of that. So then it's all down to God, all down to the divine. So it creates all these beings with all these desires create certain experiences. And we could say it's on the human level, we could say it's our desire, it's our creation. But then when you step out from the bird's eye perspective, you see that we aren't in control and there's something that is creating all our urges and impulses. But on the human level, it feels as if we do. So on the human level, if we put on weight and then we reduce eating, it feels like we lose weight. But the most important thing is mentality. It's not actually the activity of reducing food or eating more food, it's mentality. It's what you think and what you believe. I do think myself personally, I know that I have a tendency to think that if you eat too much, you'll put on weight, or if you eat too much bad food, you'll get sick. So I just stick to those laws because as of yet, I can't change that thought process. And when that thought process is changed, then my eating will change. If I no longer believe that, I'll be eating chips every night for dinner. I love chips. Chips in England are like French fries, not potato chips. I do like potato chips too, but I love chips. I was actually thinking about, I've got some potatoes down there and cutting them up tonight to make chips. I'm talking about having no future and then I'm already planning out my dinner. And I also have had an eating disorder in the past, so as a result of that, I don't fill my house with stimuli food. Not because I'll binge on it, I don't binge on food like I used to, but because I don't want to put that food inside my body, and I know that there'll be some weak moment during the day or during that week where I'm like, and I'll eat the shitty food. I don't mind having shitty food occasionally, but I want to control how much shitty food I put into the body. Like just like one chocolate bar rather than like 4 chocolate bars a week or something. So I don't do that. I don't have shitty food in the house generally. So I never have the temptation to eat bad. And if I'm going to eat bad, then I have to go to the shops purposely to get a bad or naughty food. And that's the way I deal with food, because I know that in me, I do, firstly, I have had addiction to food before. So I think that addiction is firstly an emotional thing, something we've been trained, and something that's an emotional thing. And then also it can be a genetic thing where you've got a tendency towards it. I once had a dog called George. was so sweet. He was a cross Labrador and Golden Retriever. And a known genetic default in Labradors is greed. So this is something that so all dogs, if you're not a dog fan, you might not know this, but all dogs are selectively bred. And we selectively breed habits that we want from the dogs. And a known defect of the Labrador, and the Labrador often dies from stomach problems, is that they have greed, terrible greed. And my dog had so much greed, he used to dig up my bulbs, the plants of the bulbs, the root bit of my plant, and eat them. He was so greedy. And like one time he found like this big roll of meat. He would eat anything. If it had a bit of food in it, he'd eat the whole thing, no matter what it was. So the roll of meat, and the roll of meat, you buy it from the supermarket and it has plastic all around it. And he found it and he just ate the whole thing with the plastic. And I was like, oh man, George, I think you're really dead this time. And then about 2 days later, he threw up a perfect ball of plastic. Amazing. And I think that I have that. My dad had a tendency to be greedy as well. He also was a vegan. And I think it's a tendency, just like if your parents are alcoholics, then you'll have that tendency towards it. So it's most probably best that you don't drink, or you don't, for me, like stimulate myself with naughty food. Because the other problem with naughty food is once you get a taste for it, everything else has to become more naughty. You have to have more higher tastes on all your other foods. Yeah. So to answer your question, I do think it's a state of mind, but you have to work with what you've got. You can't like force yourself. You can't be like, from now on, I'm not going to believe that food makes me put on weight. You can intellectually think that, but you can't force your body to think that. Like your being still feels that. Like thoughts are ingrained in our system. So yes, everything is a state of mind. You've got to be honest and realistic about the makeup of your body. And then from the makeup of your body, then you can address what it is that you want. So if you're overeating, then it's most probably a psychological thing, because I think that I've got a genetic predisposition to being greedy with food. Like I think that I get very stimulated by food. I notice my dog, George, like if you just even mentioned food, like drool would just come out of his mouth. And I can feel this happen in me, that like I just see or think about my potatoes, or about cheesecake, or chocolate cake, or chocolate, ice cream, any of that naughty food, and the glands in my mouth produce saliva. Like I could be one of those dogs that's like, no. So I think I've got that, and I know with my partner, he's like not so interested with food. It's like, so I think I'm stimulated by food, but I think that I don't have a problem with food because I really understand my functioning. So I understand that I can't have naughty food in the house. I get overstimulated by it. And even though I'm not going to binge on it, I'm going to end up at one point, you know, when I've had a puff on something that makes you hungry, or I'm tired, I'm going to eat the naughty food, and I don't want to get into that business of doing that. I just got salt in my mouth. So I understand that, and I keep to that rule. But if I am in a house with naughty food, then I just adjust to that. And then two, I understand the psychology around overeating. And like it doesn't come up in me anymore to eat, to deny my emotions. And that's what a lot of people do. Or they use it for comfort. Or they use it to protect themselves. Or they use it because they're bored. It's like all these different things. So some people have to go through really psychologically, and I did too, understanding your relationship with food. Like, when are you eating? And you can even get apps now for this, like writing down when you eat and why you eat and the emotion that you have when you eat, and you'll see a pattern in it. So yeah, nice. Thank you for your question. Lots of love, Michael. I always get muddled up between Michelle and Michael. You know, my dyslexia. I'm not sure if that's Michael or Michelle. Could be either one. Looks similar to a dyslexic.